Hello, word nerds, and welcome to The Dictionary, hosted by me, Spencer. This is episode F104, and I believe yesterday, the previous episode, I think was episode 1900. 2000, I'm coming for ya. All right, the first word in this episode is at the bottom of this column. It is first person, 2 words. Noun from 1520. Number 1A. A set of linguistic forms as verb forms, pronouns, and inflectional affixes, referring to the speaker or writer of the utterance in which they occur. The person who is uttering the utterances is the person who's telling the story. It's first person. It's first person. I feel like I should word that differently. That was terrible. Verb forms, pronouns, referring to the speaker or writer. Right, so the story is, I did this. I was walking down the road, and I came to a fork in the road, and I picked it up, and I ate my pasta with it. That story would be in first person. Third person is, they did this. That person over there did this thing. Second person, which is very rare, is you did this. I'm telling the story about what you, the reader, did. You did this thing. You are consuming this, and you don't have any memory of picking up the fork and eating the pasta with it, but you did it. But no, this is first person. I did it. What's the story? Is it Catcher in the Rye? Is that told in first person? I think it might have been. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a literary person, so I can't give you a lot of examples. But that's first person because it's a first. What was the one that we had in the previous episode? First hand. It's all first hand by the narrator. All right, 1B is a linguistic form belonging to such a set of all the stuff that we just talked about. 1C. Reference of a linguistic form to the speaker or writer of the utterance in which it occurs. I mean, luckily I know what first person is, because if I was reading this, I'd be like, wait, what? I gotta break this down. I gotta be a smart English major to even know what you're trying to tell me? Reference of a linguistic form to the speaker or writer of the utterance in which it occurs. Number 2, a style of discourse marked by general use of verbs and pronouns of the first person. There's no etymology, so we're going to go on to the next word, and I got to make a sound effect. I'm going to go boo-doo-boo-boo, because that's fun. Yeah, okay. Now we have the first form of first rate. 2 words with a hyphen. Adjective from 1671. Of the first order of size, importance, or quality. First-rateness is a noun, and first-rater is also a noun. It's just the most thing, the best thing, the most important, highest quality. It's first rate. Of course, I don't have to say it, but I'm going to say it. This podcast is first rate. And of course, you should rate it and review it on the podcast places and give it those first rate stars, which are 5. Okay. Now we have the second form of first rate. Also 2 words with a hyphen. Adverb from 1844. I feel like, oh, yes, there was something blocking me. This is very well. First rate, very well. As in, is getting along first rate. And that is a quote from Mark Twain. Was Mark Twain getting along very well with somebody? Getting along first rate. We are having the highest quality relationship. It's very large. It's a very large relationship. The most quality. We're getting along. For you and I, we are getting along first rate, I think. Now we have first reader, 2 words. The first letters are capitalized. Noun from 1895. A Christian scientist chosen to conduct meetings for a specified time and specifically to read aloud from the writings of Mary Baker Eddy. And I don't know anything about the Christian Scientist world, but they're the first reader because I don't know, they're doing the first reading of the sermon thing. I don't know, sorry, I got no information. I am the first reader of the dictionary. Next is first reading, noun from 1660. The first submitting of a bill before a quorum of a legislative assembly, usually by title or number only. And I don't know what the title or number only part is, but I guess this is when you submit a bill to the Congress, the Senate, the House of Representatives, whatever it is, and it's the first time that it is being read or discussed or presented. That is called the first reading, I guess. Next is first responder, 2 words, noun from 1970. Now, I assume that there were first responders before then, but maybe they didn't have the term first responder. This is a person, as a police officer or an EMT, who is among those responsible for going immediately to the scene of an accident or emergency to provide assistance. These are hopefully the first people who are going to arrive to provide some help. If there is an accident on the highway, we've all seen them. Hopefully we haven't been in them, but we drive past them and we gawk and look at it. There's some sort of vehicle with blinky lights and sirens that go wee-oo, wee-oo, wee-oo. They're the ones who are going to get there immediately. When you dial 911, they're responding first. It's possible that there could be a civilian who is a first responder who just happens to get there first and help out, get the person out of the car in the accident. That's pretty great. They are not officially a first responder. That's not their job, but it's pretty great when people can jump in and help out and be a first responder. This is not a job that I could ever do. I just can't. That's not the way my life went. But oh boy, do I have respect for them. Thank you to your first responders, to all of our first responders for jumping in, helping out in sometimes dangerous situations too. They're putting their life at risk sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. And they're going to help you. They're going to help you oh so good. Here we go. Now we have first run, 2 words with a hyphen, adjective from 1912. Available for public viewing for the first time, as in first run movies. Also, exhibiting first run movies, as in first run theaters. Most theaters out there are first run theaters. They are showing movies that are getting out into the world for the first time. Maybe they did the festival circuit. That doesn't really count. That's sort of like pre-run. But yeah, the first run, it's like, oh, okay, we got a movie. Everybody's going to see it for the first time. But there are theaters out there, not as many as there used to be probably, that are second run theaters. A movie comes back maybe 3 months, 6 months later, whatever it is, and it's all a little bit cheaper. I think it's cheaper for the theater to rent or to buy the movie, and it's cheaper for them to charge the patrons, the guests. So if you want to wait a little while, but see now streaming's changed everything. A movie's in the theater for 3 weeks, and then it's out on streaming like a few weeks after that. And it's a whole weird world that we're living in. So second-run theaters are not so much a thing, but pretty much everything is a first-run theater. The movies are getting their first run, and the movie business is wonky, because if it doesn't do like really, really well in a first-run theater, it's probably not going to stay there that long, and then it just goes to streaming. Movies used to stay in theaters for a long time. Okay, first run 1912. They were thinking about this way back then. First sergeant, 2 words, noun from circa 1860. Number 1, a non-commissioned officer serving as the chief assistant to the commander of a military unit. And the example would be a company or a squadron. The first sergeant. Is there a second sergeant? Probably. Number 2, the rank of a first sergeant. The first sergeant is the first sergeant. But specifically, a rank in the Army above a sergeant first class, and below a sergeant major, and in the Marine Corps above a gunnery sergeant and below a master gunnery sergeant. Wow, they just made it super complicated. How can anybody keep any of these ranks straight? It's all weird. Sergeant, if you want to know how to spell sergeant, it is Sergeant. Sergeant. First strike, noun from 1960. A preemptive nuclear attack. First strike with a hyphen is an adjective. So, don't like the sound of this. I mean, you'd think that first strike is just the first blow, the first attack of anything. But this is specifically talking about attacking another place with nuclear weapons preemptively before the war really gets going, before they're ready for it, before you tell them that you're going to do it. I don't know why you'd tell them that you're going to do it anyway. First strike. I really, really hope that we don't ever have to deal with a first strike. First string, 2 words with a hyphen, adjective from 1917. Number 1, being a regular as distinguished from a substitute. And where is this? It's on a team, maybe a football team. You're a regular. You and the other group of people who are on the first string. You're the ones who are going out every game all the time. The first ones to go out. You're the first run team. But sometimes, the first string gets tired, and then you gotta replace people with the second string. Maybe they're not as good, but they're ready to go. They're ready to give it their best. And if the first people are tired or injured, the second string is gonna do just as good of a job, and they're ready to go. Okay, I don't know. I've never been on a first string. I'm usually the 8th string. Number 2, the synonym is first rate. Yeah, the best, the highest quality. These are the best ones we got. Of course, we're going to put them out first. First stringer is a noun. I don't know why string. What happened? How did they get the word string in there? The first string? Couldn't it have been the first group? First friends? I don't know. First water, 2 words, noun from 1753. Number 1, the purest luster. And this is used of gems. The purest luster. So, if you got a gem that has a luster so pure, you would say that it is first water? I don't know. Number 2 is the highest grade, degree, or quality. It doesn't say gems, but it's probably gems and maybe other things. I've never heard of this term before. First water. How do you use it in a sentence exactly? That gem is first water. That water is first water. It's the highest quality water we have. I don't know. That's a cool one. Cool one to use to put into your talking with other people. First world. 2 words. Noun from 1967. The F and the W are often capitalized. This is the highly developed industrialized nations often considered the westernized countries of the world. This whole westernized thing, it doesn't really have anything to do. I mean, it depends on the context, but overall, at least in this context, it doesn't really have anything to do with the west or the east, literal directions, which also, the earth is a sphere, so it's kind of arbitrary anyway. But the idea is that Europe is kind of west of certain areas, and America definitely is west, and Canada is west of certain areas, and the industrialization really came from these areas, and capitalism and the being very developed came from these quote unquote Western countries, and so now other countries that have also been very developed and industrialized and everything and turned into capitalism, they are considered westernized because they have taken those Western things from essentially America. And I don't know, there's pros and cons with all of that. And but so the countries all around the world that are considered developed, industrialized, westernized, they are considered the first world. Not necessarily first rate, that depends on your opinion. But this is, the etymology comes from, or is compared to, third world. There are countries on this planet that we call third world countries because they are not as developed, not industrialized, not westernized. To be stereotypical, I guess, about it, they're poorer. People are probably working on farms, don't have a lot of stuff. But they have a lot of other stuff that we don't have, like maybe a better sense of community and helping each other out and stuff like that. But they also probably have a lot more diseases because they don't have that infrastructure to allow for them to have clean water and stuff like that. And when you see those commercials when you were a kid about, give a couple of bucks a month and help this child with a distended belly and flies flying all over them. That's the first world trying to help the third world, but I don't know the details of how all that stuff went. Anyway, let's not get down that rabbit hole. So they coined this in 1967, not that long ago. Well, I am let's not talk about politics right now. Oh boy, I'm frustrated. That was the first word. That's a funny phrase. Now we have firth. Firth. Noun from the 14th century. The synonym is estuary. Estuary. This, I think, is like a water land thing, because this is from Old Norse fjordur, and there's more at the word ford, but it could also be connected to fjord, which I think, would that be in the FJ section? Let's just take a quick look at that. That's coming up not too long. Yep. Fjord, also from the Old Norse fjordur. So, it's like where land and water meet in a certain way. And the estuary, I kind of know what that is, but I don't remember exactly, so I'm not going to say. I'm going to keep it to myself. It's a firth. Next is fisc. Fisc. Noun from 1598. A state or royal treasury is the fisc. Well, it comes from our next word, fiscal. First form, adjective from 1563. Number 1, of or relating to taxation, public revenues, or public debt, as in fiscal policy. Anything that has to do with money, pretty much. Public debt, but this is all public. It's all about the country, the government controlling the money, and What's the people are being taxed, so they're giving the money to the government so the government can pay for things to help out those people. And public revenues, how the public is making money, but also public debt, how the public is owing money. Don't really know all the details of this because I'm not a fiscal person. I'm not an economist. I don't work in the government. And so yeah, it's all about the money stuff that's dealing with the country as a whole, I guess. Number 2, of or relating to financial matters. If you're dealing with your own financial matters, those are your fiscal matters. Fiscally is an adverb. This is from Latin fiscalis, also from Latin fiscus, which means basket or treasury. So I'm just making this up, but I'm guessing that back in the olden days, when the people would come around to collect the taxes of all the different houses, maybe for the royalty or whatever government was in place at that place and time that we are talking about, this imaginary place and time, they would maybe have a basket and say, put your coins in the basket, please. This is where your money's got to go. And that was a fiscus. The basket was a fiscus. And then it sort of evolved and became treasury because that's where the treasures were going into the basket. Aha. Okay. Now you know where fiscal comes from the brain of Spencer. Now we have the second form of fiscal. Noun from 1869. Number 1, the synonym is revenue stamp. I don't know what a revenue stamp is. It's you stamp it to say this is revenue. We made this money. I don't know. Number 2, the synonym is fiscal year. If they don't want to say fiscal year, just shorten it to fiscal. It's a funny sounding word. Oh, and look at that. Our last word. It's fiscal year. 2 words, noun from 1843. An accounting period of 12 months. But don't they say, I guess it depends on the company or the country, but I think what they say is the fiscal year is like starts in September or something and goes through, I don't know. For some reason, it's not always January 1st to December 31st. It might be weird. I don't deal with those matters, those fiscal year matters. All right, I got nothing else to say about these words, I don't think, so let's pick one as the word of the episode. Today we had first person, first rate, first reader, first reading, first responder, first run, first sergeant, first strike, first string, first water, first world, firth, fisc, fiscal, and fiscal year. Well, as much as I love first run movies, we try and go see as many as we can. We've got that AMC A Club. What is it called? The A, whatever. It's the thing where you get to see 3 movies a week for not that much money, and we have saved a ton of money, and we get to see a whole bunch of movies, and it's pretty great. I'm not gonna lie, I don't love supporting these big old companies, but we're getting to see cheap movies, which is really awesome. Mostly first run movies. But I'm going to pick first responder as the word of the episode because first responders help you out. They give you some medical attention. First responders are helping you out. And they are pretty great. All right. What's another first run movie we saw? Was it first run? I don't know. Let's see. Yes, I assume it was. We saw, not a lot of people are known about this one, and more people should, so I'm going to talk about it. It's called Porcelain War. I believe it might have been nominated for Golden Globe for probably Best Documentary, because it's a documentary. It might be up for the Academy Awards Best Documentary. Those are being announced this morning. Like, as I'm speaking, they, I think, are announcing them literally right now. Um, so, Porcelain War. It is about the Ukraine war. It is so heart-wrenching and sad, but kind of amazing to to see the destruction, see what has happened, because unless you're like watching the news constantly, um, you don't get to see this. I'm not seeing this stuff, and so it was really kind of amazing to see all of that amazing drone footage. But the whole thing is shot by the subjects of the documentary, mostly this couple who are artists and who are fighting the war, but also making their art uh, while the war is going on, and they're doing it specifically to be, what's the right word to say here? To be, oh, I can't think of it, but you know it. To push back against the war. Anyway, there's a good word for that. But it's a good one to see because it's also just beautiful. There's so many beautiful shots. They did such a good job making this movie and talking about something super serious, and the art is beautiful, and they do these really cool animations on the art a few times, and I was very impressed with all of that. So you should go watch Porcelain War. I have up here a webpage about the nominations because that's happening right now. And where is it? It's not live updates. Well, I guess they've just gotten started, so there are no live updates. But hey, let's see what's nominated. It's a way to celebrate each other and give each other awards, but it's fun also. Okay, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for checking out this show, and until next time, this is Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye.